You're still in a position, in America at least, where we have whole political parties outright calling for socialism right now. What is going on? Well, it's clearly the case that the effort to rally around liberty as an idea, or even just around the economic arguments for liberty, which have been made beautifully, by the way, since Adam Smith all the way through Ludwig von Mises and Thomas Sowell and Walter Williams and the other good economists. Henry Hazlitt's done beautiful work in that area. But those arguments have not convinced people to actually embrace liberty and free markets. They just haven't. And the reason is that people actually are motivated more deeply than by economic ideas. They're motivated by their moral and philosophic ideas. And the only way that we can actually make people understand what liberty is and why it's something that we should advocate and instill and defend is by appealing to moral and philosophic arguments. And that's what we're going to be doing in this course, is we're going to talk about not just how to advocate liberty in terms of politics and economics, but in terms of morality and philosophy.
We saw this recently, by the way, with Ray Niles, an economist, who during the COVID-19 pandemic petitioned governors and state legislators. He made these very, very good arguments, very good economic arguments for getting rid of the anti-price gouging laws to ensure that there were less shortages. And he sent this to, I believe, someone at the Wall Street Journal, and they took a look at it and said, this is really interesting. They were thinking about perhaps promoting it. But then the main contact there asked him, well, wouldn't that mean that fewer poor people would be able to get these things? The prices would go up and poor people will be without. And that's where the conversation ended. He didn't make a moral argument, and they weren't interested in promoting this thing that they thought was wrong. So.
Yeah, that's a really good example, because it's a case in point, really. The economic arguments simply do not move people. Now, it is also true, and if you understand economics really broadly and really deeply, which very few people do, it's a very complex science, then you would know, actually, that in a fully free market, the poor people would have much better access to much better healthcare at much lower prices, right? There's a way that you can make that case. But A, it's not obvious, and B, it's just not sufficient. It's more economic arguments are a necessary aspect of defending liberty, I think, but they're absolutely not sufficient. And to make a sufficient argument, you've got to have the moral case. You've got to be able to take the position that, look, people have a moral right to keep the goods and products that they produce, and that this integrates with practicality. It does not conflict with practicality. And that's what we get if we understand both the moral and philosophic arguments on top of or in addition to the economic arguments.